Okay, over the past several years, we have noticed something with Kyrie Irving. He's had a career like, if anybody watches a lot of international football, they know Neymar is like the Brazilian soccer player that was like part of the more premier teams over for PSG and for Barcelona over in Spain. This guy is internationally popular, one of the premier athletes, notable Batman fan, Kyrie Irving, weirdo, skeptic, and alleged anti-Semitic, gave an anti-Semitic remark, video postage like a couple of months ago that costed him his deal with Nike. Knowing his underperformance after literally leaving players that are better than him, and just knowing that he's more of a complementary piece offensively, and always given the spectral drama after literally leaving a franchise when he's given the opportunity for contention, and that I think he always thinks that they'll cater around his way of how he's going to play the game. It gets agitating, and I wish I would be more optimistic because a lot of young people resemble with Kyrie Irving. They like Kyrie Irving. They want to play like Kyrie Irving. And most people would think somebody like Kyrie Irving, with the way he plays, the teams that he has aligned himself with, he should have been more than just a one-time NBA champion in 2016. But he isn't. He pissed out his leg after missing his first season over an injury, and then barely making it around the conference finals, where he lost to the 2018 defending Eastern Conference champions of the Cavaliers. Then spent a stint in Brooklyn, where he got shut out in the first round after his last postseason appearance in Brooklyn, and then 1 foot on the line, Kevin Durant shot efficiency. Kyrie Irving is a complete defensive liability. Now sharing over the backcourt with one of the more prolific playmakers, shot creating players into the game that you could actually build around, like Luka Doncic. And now he's expected to barely even be up for half a season after being given a 3-year extension for a possibility to probably play over in a bigger market where there's more contention, because there's not much you can get when you're with Steph Curry, Dante Exum, Luka Doncic, and Christian Wood, and you still have Tim Hardaway Jr. under contract after you got rid of him, so you can even get him over Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie, that are highly more superior players. I still don't get the logic here. And I wish I was more excited to know that the Mavericks are still over in the line of contention. They're still trying to at least stick to a long-term deal with Kyrie Irving, and they're trying to at least get something to work out so there can be a combo piece. Because, you can't always have one guy do all the work over on an NBA team. There should at least be 2 superstar players with a bunch of depth. The Suns forgot that, and they added technically 3. Do you think I was going to add DeAndre Ayton after the performance he had against the Denver Nuggets in the conference semifinals? Absolutely not. But knowing that's the case, Kyrie is not going to win with Brooklyn. And I don't think he's willing to even try to entertain Brooklyn's, Dallas chances for contention. Dante Exum was hooping around overseas, came back over a 2-year, $6 million deal. They picked up good veteran 3-and-D, spot-up shooter Steph Curry that actually had some good shooting splits over in Brooklyn while he was there. Grant Williams in a 3-way trade with the Dallas Mavericks for 2 second round picks over a 4-year, $53 million deal. Dwight Powell re-signed. Dwight Powell, the most basic bench-warming pick-and-roll artist, bullshit bench warmer that you'll have over on your roster. And they re-signed Kyrie Irving. That's majority of their stints over this offseason after re-signing Tim Hardaway Jr. from 2021 for 4 years, $75 million. That's backed up in cap. They still have Pinston, and they let go of JaVale McGee after signing him off from the last season for 3 years, $17 million. And he's not even decided to still have a plan over in Dallas. So he's possibly going to be in the consolation prize over to go back to LA. That's the majority of what's going to be happening around the offseason for the Dallas Mavericks. That's going to be the option here. I wish I had more positive things to say about what's going to happen for the Dallas Mavericks. Possibly they can go over to a hot start. Luka Doncic was in prime form around until January of 2023. He had 60-point game. He had a 60-point triple-double. Back-to-back 34-point games, averaging around a triple-double. Game winners, cross-ups, while debuting his new signature shoe he had with the Jordan brand. He was already rocking around third place in the Western Conference in the Western Conference before All-Star Weekend. That is impressive production, but just the lack of a supporting cast and a defensive system, and just Jason Kidd just always had rotational issues with the way his depth worked when he has actually good players on his team. But they had poor shot selection, poor depth, and just not enough defensively minded players. The only decent players that they have over on the team was Max Kleber, JaVale McGee, that they were benching. They weren't even playing JaVale McGee. Spencer Dinwiddie a couple times, and of course the only defensively minded wing that could be a spot-up shooter is Dorian Finney-Smith, that got traded around the deadline so they can get Kyrie Irving. And I feel like the Nets would have beat the shit out of the Dallas Mavericks if they played more than at least once around the remainder of the regular season. Because that team was just atrocious. They were struggling against the Chicago Bulls. And that was when I think they were starting Kyrie and Luka at the same time, when they were still trying to push for playoff contention. Until they just thought, screw it, let's try to tank over still for a pick. When we were like contending over in the top seed before we were steadily declining. That's why they were trying to make a desperation to even get Kyrie Irving, even though we knew that both top players in Brooklyn wanted to leave at that time, and then they still wanted to make a secondary piece for Luka after we know Kristaps Porzingis did not work over as a secondary option over in the scoring when he played better when he was in Washington. So that tells you something. And now he's over in Boston, where Kyrie used to play. So, I don't know. Kyrie still doesn't know how to either gel over with a particular franchise, and I get it, stuff happens in the business world of basketball, and possibly some stuff couldn't correlate, and Kyrie Irving's production doesn't align with him being the number one premier option, knowing to build around just a ball-dominant scorer that can barely do stuff off ball, and already a shit defender because he's around 6'2", around the under nearly the average height of a regular point guard, and he's already around his early 30s. So screw that if you think that he's going to be averaging steals like Chris Paul. So if we're getting that off Kyrie Irving's alignment over with the Dallas Mavericks, just think what they can do with Dante Exum and Seth Curry on the floor. And just still like the weakest amount of rotations I've seen, other than the only defensive upside that they got over this offseason, was Grant Williams, that got bitched by Jimmy Butler in the conference finals of this year. So we'll see what Grant Williams can provide over for the Dallas Mavericks. And could this be the last season of Jason Kidd? Because I feel like Jason Kidd's system just is not for the Dallas Mavericks when they're revolving around one guy and they're not over team basketball setting, and nobody is really that, sticking out in positive light. I'm getting more positive vibes over the Phoenix Suns than I am with the Dallas Mavericks, because it can either go Kyrie doesn't perform well, the Mavericks don't perform well, Kyrie's unhappy, we get a trade, and it compensates over for the max deal production, because that's why after the expiring contract over with Brooklyn, or Luka's unhappy, we get a lack of rotation, and Luka possibly goes to a better market where he could actually provide for another team. And we don't know if that's going to be good for Mark Cuban. You guys tell me how you guys feel in the comment section below. That's it from the video. I'm more scared for Dallas than you think. That's it for me.